Alright, hey guys, Mikoshi here. After a quite positive response to my first YouTube video, I've decided to make a build series on how to level your character from 1 to 100. So this is part 1, where I'll showcase how to level your character throughout the acts from level 1 to 60. Hopefully you enjoy. Alright, so let's get into it. First of all, it's important to notice that this build is not a competitive build for the act race. So if you plan on rushing the story in less than like 3 hours, 3 hours and a half, it's gonna be a bit hard. I think Spicy Sushi, his name is, did it in like 4 with the with his like lightning arrow, but I don't think we're all at the at his level. But what's important to know also that this is probably one of the comfiest experience possible with a bow build. I tested it out and I was pleasantly surprised with how easy it was. I did part 1 of the story with only a 3 link, and then I finished part 2 with only a 4 link, so there was no 5 links involved. Also, it's important to understand that this is not a hardcore viable build. You'll probably die quite a few times, and for the acts, it is completely solo self-found viable. I did not treat a single item. And most of the early map content is also solo self-found viable, but I suggest you do start trading after a while. Yeah, so this guide won't baby you through the acts, right? So I won't tell you, okay, you have to go this and there, but I'll give you the tools needed. So I'll tell you, for example, which gems I suggest, at what level you should get them, and then I'll be giving you also the guide on how to make your tree, right? So it's going to be a 10 level progression every time. It is noob friendly, to be honest. I remember when I started playing bow builds, it was definitely harder than that. Now obviously there's the skill thing, but I think they've received so many buffs throughout the leagues. It was super easy. Obviously I think the first 1 or 2 acts is a bit like hard, but once you get your hand on it, it's very easy actually. So obviously we'll be using the Ranger class and use the Radio Ascendancy before switching to the Deadeye. I'll be explaining why in detail later on in the video. Alright, so in this guide, on the left you'll have the quests, the list of the quests you'll be doing per every part, and with the ones with the red star, are usually main quests or important gems, right? And the white ones are the side quests that give you a passive skill point. So I did not put the one. So if you don't want to get the regret books, right, where you can like refund passives, and you only want the extra ones, just do the white ones, white stars. The rest are unimportant. Example, a dirty job gives you 2 regret points, which is completely unneeded for our build. So Act 1, the progression. So Enemy at the Gate is the first main quest you'll get. That's how you get access to Lion Eye's Watch. You just have to kill the boss, and it's basically the tutorial. Once you get that, I suggest you get Split Arrow, okay? I'll explain why. Well, Split Arrow, you can use it long range, right? And you do not need for extra projectiles, which is great, right? So you're not losing DPS with lesser multiple projectiles. I know a lot of people play Galvanic Arrow, right, which is very good because you can, like, I think shotgun enemies, and it does big damage. The thing is, I find that the range is limited, so especially for new players, you need to get like really close to the enemies, and considering that the Ranger class prop has like one of the least amount of defenses, you might die a lot, which is great. Why? Well, you can use Split Arrow, so you can stay long range, right, and just shoot things, which is basically what the Ranger class is. After that, the Mercy mission, I suggest you get the Quick Silver Flask. This will make your progression way faster, right? And the Mirage Archer support. I did not use the Mirage Archer support during my my run, but it's highly suggested because when you're running around, well, that you're still outputting DPS, right? Instead of, you know, shooting once, having to run away, shooting another time, right? Mirage Archer will be able to provide your DPS at all times. Break in some eggs. That's when you get Shrapnel Ballista. It's basically like a small, like, shotgun ballista, and that is very good when you're mapping because you can distract enemies. As we said, you don't have a lot of HP, so you're able to like put a shrapnel ballista, hide behind it while all the enemies are concentrated on it. You can just shoot it. You can shoot the rest of the enemies with a split arrow, and it's very good for bossing for the same reason, because it's distracting the boss and it's just extra DPS for free. Finally, after getting the break in some eggs, you will also be given dash, which is a movement skill, which is very good, right? Faster progression, and also example, big hits, you can just dash away. Cage Brute, that's where you get added cold damage, precision, blink arrow, and withering step. So now obviously it won't be given all to you once you complete the quest. You need to choose, I think, just one. But if you play the game normally, right, without rushing, you get the items, you vendor the items, you'll have enough scrolls to just be able to buy them. Added cold damage is very good, right? It's just extra DPS, and it's additive DPS. Precision is very good for having more accuracy, and I'll explain why accuracy is going to be very important in the beginning. Well, also at the end, but it's really important in the beginning. You can keep it level 1. Blink arrow is just a simple other movement that is very good, right? It's a longer range of a movement. So example, if dash can't get to some place, well, blink arrow will be able to. And then finally, withering step. Withering step is a huge boost of movement speed, right? And also it's a big boost of survivability, because it makes that your character is able to run through mobs. So example, you're like, there's too many mobs, usually you'll be blocked by them. When you wither, you can go right through them, so basically you're phasing right through them, and that helps you survive a lot. Finally, Siren's Cadence or whatever, sorry, bad English. That's once you kill, I think, Merveil or something, you get Rain of Arrows, which will be your main skill for the rest of your act progression. Once you reach level 10, I suggest you get Clarity from a friend or a trade. It's the best quality of life for now, because mana problems are pretty big. If you have to always wait for your mana regen to be able to shoot, you're basically cutting your DPS by like 3, 4, or 5. So Clarity is a huge quality of life and a big DPS technically boost. Now obviously you can do this without it. You'll be able to get it once you reach Act 3, but for Act 1 and 2, when your mana regen is low, it's really a good quality of life. Now for the rest, Dweller of the Deep, Marooned Mariner, or The Way Forward, those give you a +1 passive skill. You can skip them and come back later. I still suggest doing them. That will give you, more XP and more points. And also you'll be able to follow the tree progression better, as the tree progression will take the tree progression is made that you do all quests to get the extra passive point. And now obviously the Lord's Labyrinth is for your Ascendancy. Highly suggest to do it, or you can come back to it later. Your gem setup during Act 1. Your main skill gems will be Split Arrow and Added Cold or Mirage Archer, depends. Shrapnel Ballista. It can be on a 1 link, right? And then Burning Arrow. Why Burning Arrow is during bosses, I suggest you shoot the boss with Burning Arrow. That's a higher DPS and will also give you dot damage, which is quite big in the beginning. Shrapnel Ballista, obviously, for when you're mapping, running through the axe, and then also during boss. Your Heralds, I suggest Precision, and then your movement will be Dash, Blink Arrow, and Withering Step. Act 2. You get Great White Beast. That will give you your second Quicksilver. I'm not sure if it's a main quest or not. I put it white because it didn't give gems. Intruders in black, this will give you Herald of Ice, and then you can also after that buy another Herald. I suggest you buy a Herald that you cannot deal damage with. Now that's really important, because after the Sacred Ground quest, you'll be given Trinity. Now how Trinity works, basically you need to be able to deal all 3 types of damage, elemental damage, right? So you need to deal cold, lightning, and fire damage, and basically all equal kinda. So example, you find a bow that adds fire damage, then I suggest your heralds to be ice and lightning or thunder or whatever. If your bow only deals cold damage, then I suggest you go added lightning maybe, and then your herald will be fire and stuff. Now, my tip is that it's better to have basic fire damage on your gear and then getting cold and lightning from extra, because your herald as well as added fire are added compared to your physical damage, right? And because our physical damage is pretty low, that means our added fire damage will be pretty low, right? Because it's, I think, 25% converted, physical converted to fire. So if you have only, I don't know, like 4 physical, well, only 1 is fire, which is pretty low, right? If you get, like, I don't know, a bow that adds 3 to 4 fire damage, it's way better. And then you can go for the Herald of Ice and then lightning. Once you get to root of all your problems, you can get your other herald for free, example, or and obviously we still have to go an element that you cannot deal damage with. For the bandits, I suggest you go kill, you save Kraton for now. This will give you a movement speed. Basically, it just makes you faster. You could kill both and then just get better nodes. To be honest, it's really your choice, and you can always change that once you reach the end game. Now, Shadow of the Vaal will open the entrance to Act 3. Now, for the gem setup of Act 2, your main skill will be Rain of Arrow, Added Cold, and Trinity, right? It could be added lightning, it could be added fire, it depends. As long as you make all 3 damage, elemental damage type, it will work. If you do not have Trinity, or if you only have a 3 green link, you could go faster projectile, or you could go Added Cold and Mirage Archer. For Shrapnel, I just suggest you go Added Cold or Added Lightning, and then Burning Arrow. If you have a 3 link, I suggest you go, you drop the Shrapnel and you go Ballista Support. For the Ballista Support, when you're only running through the axe, I suggest you use Rain of Arrows and then Added Cold if possible. What that makes is you're able to drop your ballistas and then just run away, and the ballistas will kill the enemies for you, which makes your progression way faster. And once you get at the boss, you swap the Rain of Arrow for Burning Arrow, and that will be a big DPS boost, especially if the boss is running around. Shrapnel has a limited range, while Burning Arrow with the ballista doesn't. And yeah, for your heralds, Precision, Herald of Ice, if possible, Clarity, and then Herald of Thunder. I think with the added Cold, Herald of Ice, and Herald of Thunder, this is the best DPS you could get, and you'll also be able to proc freeze a lot. We'll get to that a bit later. And then your movement, you still keep Dash, Blink, Arrow, Withering Step. Act 3, Lost in Love. That's where you speak to Clarissa, I think. You get Sniper's Mark, as we seen in the first video of how to make a Omniscience Tornado Shot build. Sniper's Mark is a huge DPS boost. And then you get your Sewer's Keys, which is important for the rest of the story. Now, once you do Sever the Right Hand, you'll have Artillery Ballista. Artillery Ballista will be our totems, and that thing is a massive DPS. It's huge. It doesn't make sense. Like, I wish I had that before. It's really good for bossing and for when you're running while mapping. I'll just say mapping. It's really good. For Fixture of Fate, now I suggest you get like maybe a second wind support for your dash if you want. And then the act is pretty simple in terms of main quests, and then you go Scepter of God, and then that will open Act 4. Your gem setup will be Rain of Arrows, Added Cold, Trinity, and then Artillery Ballista, elemental damage with the attack skills, and Added Cold. Now, obviously, you don't need the same gems exactly. If you don't have the same socket colors, you can change that up. You just have to think the same way, right? You want added elemental and then just elemental multiplicative. For the herald, we won't change, and then for the movement, we won't change either. We still want to be able to proc Trinity. I think being able to proc Trinity is the best thing, especially early on. You'll also be able to use Trinity for your like mid and even end game content. So I think being able to have it right in the beginning and understanding how it works is a very big boost. If you do not have a blue socket, you can just go increase elemental damage. If you have a blue socket and you don't want Trinity, right? You don't want to have heralds and you find it too complicated. You could go Added Lightning. I do not suggest going Elemental Focus, as that will make that you're not able to proc any ailments, and freeze is a very good quality of life, especially when you're running through. You'll be able to freeze like I think 3/4 of the enemies. Like if you don't kill them, you'll freeze them, which is very good, especially early on, because an enemy that is frozen cannot deal damage, and if it cannot deal damage, well, you can't die. Heralds will still be the same, and movement will still be the same. Act 4. Breaking the seal. Get yourself Lightning Golem for attack speed or Stone for life regen. Do not get the Ice Golem, because Ice Golem will gives you critical chance, and we will not be dealing any critical chance before a long time. You'll see that more later during the tree progression. King of the Fury will give you Eye of the Fury, which is needed for the rest of the quest. King of Desire, same thing, Eye of Desire, needed for the rest of the quest. Once you get to Corpus Malacus, it's needed to access the Black Core, and then Eternal Nightmare. Could get gems used later on, no need for anything because you have limited links, right? I think with the same setup, you just get better gear that you find on the floor, and basically you'll be running through acts. Act 4, gem setup. Now, if you're able to get a 4th link, I suggest increase elemental damage or another elemental an elemental gem, but you still keep the Rain of Arrow at a Cold Trinity, and then Artillery Ballista. I suggest elemental damage with attack skills at a Cold, and if you can, Elemental Focus could be used for Artillery Ballista. It's just basically a plus 20% DPS. Heralds, still the same. Movements still the same. Okay. And then Act 5. You just need to, it's return to Oriath. That's the quest needed to access the Overseer's Tower. And then Key to Freedom will give you the Granite Flask, which is good for survivability. Example, you're in the middle of a pack and you don't have your Withering Step. You pop that up, and then you can kind of survive. I'm not sure if you're able to get the Onslaught Flask. I also suggest it, but the thing is, if you have your Ascendancy, you will not be needing any Onslaught Flask. And then once you get the Death to Purity, you can get anything, to be honest. If your build needs something, you can just take it. It's not that important. Once you reach Act 4 and 5, you'll basically don't need anything as gems. All you need is just better gear, and then after that, it's just you to be able to figure it out. Am I still able to proc Trinity, stuff like that? And your DPS will increase with your tree progression and just better gear that drops. Now, Act 5, basically the same thing. There's no changes on the main skill. As I said, I did it with a 3 link. I did Rain of Arrow, added Cold and Trinity. And then during Kitava, you could swap to Mirage Archer instead of Cold, because you'll be still able to do damage while you're like dodging. I just prefer just doing the most amount of DPS as fast as possible. And you know, if you die, you just spawn back, and it's pretty simple. But you're not gonna die as much because you're doing so much damage, and it's pretty straightforward. Basically, heralds won't change, movements won't change. Now, obviously, you can always do modifications to your build if you prefer certain things. You could, but yeah, I do suggest you still run the Rain of Arrows, because Rain of Arrows do not need to scale with extra projectiles, which often have a drawback of losing DPS. Example, with lesser or greater multiple projectiles. Rain of Arrows already shoots 10s, I think like 10 or 20 like arrows, so you don't need extra, and that is huge for area of effect, right? So if big mob packs, you don't need pierce and you don't need more projectiles, and you're able to hit the whole pack, which is great. Artillery Ballista, you still use Artillery Ballista. If you have a 4th link on artillery, I could suggest the Focus Ballista. What does Focus do is it shoots only when you shoot, and it makes that the skill deals 25% more damage. That's really good if you know what you're doing, but if it's like the first time and you're like not really good at dodging, I suggest you don't put it on. So that means artillery is still able to shoot when you're not shooting, which is great. Heralds don't change, movements don't change. Act 6, I suggest, even if it's not needed, to do the Fallen from Grace, because that will give Lily to your hideout, and that gives you access to every single gem in the game, no matter what you are. And then after reaching Act 6, you should be able to understand your build as best, and the rest is pretty simple. It's straightforward. You don't really have to change anything. As I said, I did part 1 with 3 links and then part 2 with 4 links. And then you just follow the main quests and you follow the side quests. And then it'll be a very simple, very chill progression through your acts. So if you're able to, I suggest also you get to be still able to proc Trinity, and if possible, get the inspiration support. It's very good example if you're short in mana. Often inspiration makes your skills cost less. For your main skill gems, you still keep Rain of Arrow, added Cold Trinity, increased elemental damage. Do not go elemental focus. That's a mistake. Do not go there. And then just get another gem that gives you extra elemental damage. For artillery ballista, same thing. Elemental damage, added cold. You could go elemental focus with the artillery ballista. Sorry, and then heralds. You can keep that. If you have enough mana reservation and you already are able to do 2 types of elemental damage with your gear, you could drop one of the heralds and then go for hatred. And then you can also drop clarity once you're able to get leech. Movement is really what you want. You can go flame dash, you can go dash, blink arrow, withering step, whatever you want. Frost blink, it doesn't matter. It could depend on the color of your gear. And then for the Ascendancy, it's going to be Raider versus Deadeye in the early game. We are using Rain of Arrow, which means we do not need any extra projectiles, and because of our tree, we will need to be close to the enemies to deal the most amount of damage, which means Deadeye, who offers the far shot and additional projectile, is useless, and then you can't chain with Rain of Arrows. The only good thing would be Tailwind and the Sniper's Mark, but Sniper's Mark, because we have limited links, you'll have to manually do it, which could be pretty annoying. So quality of life kind of goes low, and then we're basically left with a single Ascendancy point that is useful. While Raider gives you permanent onslaught and has 100 onslaught is 20% more damage, increased damage, sorry, and then 20% more movement speed, and you have 100% increased effect on that, which is huge. And then you have phasing and suppression, and then you have avoidance of ailments, which is very good because you have huge offensive and huge defensive. If you want to go full offense, you could just drop all this and just go for frenzy generation and more damage, more speed with frenzy. I do not suggest it if you're a new player. We'll get to it once we get to the tree, right? So in the beginning, I really suggest Raider. It's stronger, more powerful, and more defensive. It's going to be better for your build. Now, let's get to the tree. So this tree will begin. This is a from level 1 to 95 tree. We'll just be going up to level 70 for now. The rest will be slightly modified with and will be given during the next video for the early progression. So for the start, once you reach level 10, this is what your tree should look like. So projectile damage. I go attack speed. If you have mana problems, I suggest you go increase projectile damage, because the faster you shoot, the faster you're going to use your mana, right? So if you shoot less often but deal more damage, it costs you less mana. So if you can get clarity, right, if you're playing like, I don't know, Soul Self-Found for whatever reason, I go increase projectile damage. Here you get dexterity, projectile speed, which is important, and projectile damage, and then HP for, survivability. Level 10 to 20. Now this could differ. I suggest you go mana, right, because we have mana problems, and it also gives you strength and intelligence. And then you could go 2 ways. You could drop this whole wheel and go for Farsight and the bow mastery that gives you increases and reductions to projectile speed, also applied to damage with bows, which is a massive DPS boost. Or you could go more on a half DPS and half survivability with those nodes, which gives you a 10% chance to freeze, shock, and ignite. So basically 20%. Shock increases damage taken up to 50. Obviously it's not the case, but it makes enemies take more damage. And freeze, makes the action speed of enemy 0, which prevents them from moving, which is very good when you're running through packs. And then after that is increased elemental damage. Or you could drop that and go full on DPS with projectile speed. Your choice. After that, as I said, you could drop this and go here or keep this. I suggest after that you get precise technique. Okay, you could drop this and just go precise technique as before. That is 40% more attack damage if accuracy is higher than maximum life, but you never deal critical strikes. Because our critical strike chance is so low, this basically gives us 40% at all times. It's a 40% DPS boost. All you have to do is make sure that your accuracy is higher than your HP. We have low HP with the Ranger class, and plus with the Precision Aura, this will basically always be up. And then point blank, projectile attacks hit 30% more damage to targets at the start of the movement. So basically, if you're in front of them, it's a 30% increased damage at all times. After that, I suggest you get the Totem node, which is +1 to summon Ballista, which is our max is 3, so +1. It's basically a 25% increased DPS. That's it. You could also, if you want more survivability, you can go 5% of damage hits taken from your nearest totem's life before you. But through like the axe, you don't really need that really. You can also drop the life nodes to get the increased speed for more damage, or you can just start having a bit more HP, right? Because the content starts getting harder. They hit harder, right? Now your progression to level 30, you'll be able to ascend. This will give you permanent onslaught, which is very good. I suggest you get more HP, more damage node here, more HP, pretty simple, and here a bit more damage. From 40 to 50, I suggest you get the Graceful Assault here. This will basically give you 50% more evasion and 60% more armor during onslaught effect, which is at all times basically, which is a bit of a defensive node. It also gives you more effect on onslaught on you. I suggest you start going more on accuracy rating, right? Because your HP starts going higher, and accuracy is also quite important, right? Because you want to be able to hit your monsters. And then here you get charisma, right? So more mana reservation, so you can get your auras set up. From 50 to 60, then because our damage is already starting to get high, you want to start going for the spell suppression. Spell suppression, here you want, penetrate 10% of elemental resistance. You get this node. Hits have a 25% chance to treat an enemy monster resistance as values as inverted. I know, pretty sure most of you have lived the minus 60% chaos resistance life, so you already know the moment you get hit with chaos, your HP drops. So you have a 25% chance of doing the same thing with the enemies, which is a huge DPS boost. And here you get evasion rating, maximum life, and suppress damage on full HP. Finally, this is going to be your tree once you finish... oh wait, sorry. Did I forget here? No. This is going to be your tree once you end the story, right? Or like in the beginning of your maps. We just basically what we add is just here elemental resistance. The critical strike chance is unneeded. It's just more elemental damage. You could also just go suppress instead if you want to cap it. Here attack speed, evasion rating, armor, and then here is very good because you get your instant leech and then leech, and leech, which is very good, right? The rest you're gonna spec a bit on the HP nodes. And then that should be simple. You then go for the Avatar of Chase, which gives you 100% onslaught and 10% more chance to evade attacks during onslaught. This is a raw 10%. Huge. I'll stop here because the video is on the axe, right? I will be making a video on the early progression. It's going to be coming out a bit later, maybe in a couple days. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask me in the comments. And if you have any criticism or any questions or any things you would like to add, please let me know, and it'll be my pleasure. And good luck for your league start, good luck for your character creation, and don't forget, have fun. Yeah.